Okay, I continue. So can you hear me?
Can.
Okay.
Can.
The author defines that leader is anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes. Finding the potential in people and processes, and who has the courage to develop that potential. Not just finding, but they have the courage to develop it, the potential in the people or the processes. Okay, so now we desperately need more leaders who are committed to courage, wholehearted leaders, and who are self-aware enough to lead from their hearts. Okay, the authors, they having an interview with many senior leaders. Okay, then they ask the leaders about this. The question is, what, if anything, about the way people are leading today need to change in order for leaders to be successful in a complex, rapidly changing environment where we are faced with seemingly interactable challenges and an accessible demand for innovation? So the answer, or mostly they will reply, we need braver leaders and more courageous cultures. Okay, so we're going to look into brave leaders and courage cultures. Okay, the barriers and obstacles to daring leadership are real and sometimes fierce. Majority of the leader passionately talk about problematic behaviors and cultural norms that corrode trust and courage. So here is some behavior and cultural issue that leaders identify in organizations across the world. So now we're going to look into this problem. The first one, okay? The first one, the author shared with us. She say, normally we will avoid tough conversations, including giving honest, productive feedbacks. Something like how to say, let me see. Okay, so this include some people, we don't want to hurt people. We want just talk nicely and politely to people in our teams. And sometimes they will talking behind people. Sometimes they will gossip about the people. And some worst case is in front of them, they say yes, but behind of them, they not doing that. So this kind of situation will lead to a lack of clarity, trust, and engagement. Okay, this is the problem. Okay, second, instead of acknowledging and addressing fears, we instead try to manage the problematic behaviors. So sometimes we come to a problem, we come to a situation where we not dare to settle it. So we just let it go, and then we focus on the problematic behavior. We seldom go to deep in the problem and solve the problem. So the third one is diminished trust. Diminished trust is caused by a lack of connection and empathy. This one, something like you between your team member, okay, you are not trust in each other, and sometimes will lead to how to say, lack of connection between you and your team member. Okay, and the fourth one, not enough people take smart risks and share bold ideas. They are afraid of being put down or ridiculed for trying and failing. So we sometimes will come to this situation also. Okay, so we always feel that status quo is the best. Okay, so we just stay on where we are, and we not going to take the risk or share more idea. Okay, then continuous. Sometimes we will get stuck and defined by setbacks, disappointment, and failure. It's normal lah. And then some situation there is too much shame and blame and not enough accountability and learning. This one is about between our team member. If let's say I know the job is not done well by him or her, so I'm not there to talk to her, say that this one can improve more or anything, because I want to be a nice guy. So we don't have the enough accountability with them. Okay, so far so good. Six problem.
Don't really understand the second one, but after go through first, the 10 one.
Second one, yeah. Okay.
The second one. Yeah.
Okay, I go through. Okay, then the 7. Okay, the 7 is people opt out of vital conversation about diversity and inclusivity because they fear looking wrong. This one is more on we afraid people how people look at us. So we afraid that we're doing wrong, then they say we are not good enough. Yeah, so we run out of this kind of conversation. So this situation will move us away from meaningful and lasting change. The next one, when something goes wrong, people fail to properly identify the problem and take steps to solve it. Yeah, this one also like a previous one, I'll also share already. Okay, and then last two is organization value are assessed in terms of aspiration rather than actual behavior, which can be taught, measure, and evaluate. Okay, from my understanding of this situation is organization, they have their organization value, so they always ask their employee to follow the organization value rather than build their employee, okay, to taught their employee or evaluate their employee in more good value. So they always focus on the organization goal. Okay, yeah. And then the last one is perfectionist and fear keeps people from learning and growing. Okay. This one perfectionist sometimes how to say perfectionist, they always want to do everything 100% in good quality. So they also, in other ways, say that they also feel that don't want people to say they not enough good. So they always do the 100%. So this one, the author say got this situation also exists, which keep people from learning and growing. Okay, so these are the 10 problems. Okay, after we look at the list and quickly recognize not only the challenges in our organization, but our own internal struggles to show up and lead through discomfort. This may be work behaviors and organizational culture concerns, but what underlies all of them are deeply human issues. Is talking about us, okay, our personal, we dare to take it or not dare. Yeah. Next, we look into the heart of daring leadership. At the heart of daring leadership is a deeply human truth that is rarely acknowledged, especially at work. Courage and fear are not mutually exclusive. Sometimes, most of the time, we will feel brave and afraid at the exact same time. When we are pulled between our fears and our call to courage, we need shared language, skills, tools, and daily practice that can support us through the rumble. Okay, all this share
What is
language,
Rumble?
yeah, later. Okay, later, hold on. Okay, all these shared language, skills, tools, and daily practice, we will look into it in next chapter. So is the author want to share with us this kind of tools? Yeah. Okay, what is Rumble? Let's look at Rumble. Okay, Rumble is a discussion, conversation, or meeting defined by a commitment, okay, to lean into vulnerability, to stay curious and generous. Next, to stick with the messy middle of problem identification and solving, to take a break and circles back when necessary, to be fearless in owning our part. Means this one is a continuous thing. Okay, we have to practice and practice and practice, and don't afraid to uh, how to say, when we face problem, don't afraid to stop and look into the problem and solve it. We use the word rumble to say, let's have a real conversation, even if it is tough. It is an intention settles and a behavioral cue or reminder. So yeah, this is our reminder lah. Coverage is a collection of 4 skill sets that can be taught, observed, and measured. This is by the author. If they feel that coverage can be taught, can be observed, and can be measured. Okay, these are the 4 skills sets. Okay, the first one is rumbling with vulnerability. Second one is living into our values. Third one is braving trust. Fourth is learning to rise. Okay, so this also under the chapter. So under part 1, okay, part 1. Okay, the most important the authors tell us is the foundation skills of coverage building is the willingness and ability to rumble with vulnerability. Without this core skill, the other 3 skill sets are impossible to put into practice. So the author says the first one is the most important. Okay. So later when we go through the chapters, we have to look into it seriously. Okay, the first one. Okay. Then our ability to be daring leaders will never be greater than our capacity for vulnerability. Once we start to build vulnerability skills, we can start to develop the other skills. So it's quite important. The goal of this book is to give you language and specific on the tools, practice, and behavior that are critical for building the muscle memory for living this concept. Okay, this is what the author promised us. So let's see later when we go through the book. Okay, can we get all these things? Yeah. Okay. Number 2, okay, we're going to look into self-awareness and self-love matters. It's about who we are, is how we live. Okay, first thing is talking about coverage. Coverage is less about who people are, but more about how they behave and show up in difficult situations. Okay, the other side, fear is the emotion at the center of that list of problematic behaviors and cultural issues. However, feeling fears is not the barriers. The truth underlying obstacle to brave leadership is how we respond to our fear. This is from the opinion from the leader, majority of the leader they interview. The real barriers to daring leadership is our armor. Okay. The thought, emotion, and behaviors that we use to protect ourselves when we are not willing and not able to rumble with vulnerability. While we will learn tools and build skills in the following chapter, we will also assess what gets in the way of building courage, especially because we can expect our armor to show up and pose resistance to new ways of doing things and new ways of being. So practicing self-compassion and having patience with ourselves are essential in this process. Okay, third one. Courage is contagious. To skill, daring leadership, and build courage in terms and organizations, we have to cultivate a culture in which brave work, tough conversation, and whole hearts are the expectation. Karma is not necessary or rewarded. So this one we will look in detail and go when we into the chapter the chapter, yeah, in part 1. Okay, we have to be vigilant about creating a culture in which people feel safe, seen, heard, and respected. Okay, leading is not about being the boss, pointing out people's failure, or being an untouchable figure within your school or organization. A daring leader has an in-depth understanding of people feels and instincts when it comes to a team environment. So leading is not as simple as that. Okay, we have to. Okay, they choose courage over comfort and actively curious and embrace vulnerability to set an example and bring out the best in others. Bring out the best in others is the important thing. Daring leaders must care for and be connected to the people they lead. Okay, not just simply ask them to do anything or ask them to complete this, complete that. So they have to care and connect with their people also. Care and connection are irreducible requirements for wholehearted, productive relationship between leaders and team members. This means that if we do not have a sense of caring towards someone we lead, or we don't feel connected to the person, we have two options. If we face this situation, we have two options. First is develop the caring and connection with them. Second, find a leader who is a better fit. Okay? This is the real situation we cannot avoid. Okay? We need real courage to recognize when we can't fully serve the people we lead. Coverage. Okay. Thank you. Any sharing? Any?
The first point already hit me.
Which first point?
You go back to the first slide.
First slide.
Second or third. Don't know which slide.
Which one?
Not this one.
Talk about what?
Not this one.
Related what?
Okay, ignore my one first. I want to ask this question. This one. This one, the first one or the first one, the 10 problem, but the first problem already hit me because I just really voiced out something and openly in my team meeting, then I kena. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this one I not to understand. Instead of acknowledging and addressing fear, we instead try to manage the problematic behavior. Got example like how sir? We instead try to manage the problematic behavior.
Maybe I can say something before
Yeah.
Sir say.
Yeah.
Since thinking, I don't know. For me, for this second one, it's like we avoid the. It's like we're trying to avoid some sensitive question or we try to not facing the real problem. This is what I don't know. I understand. It's like they are focusing on the maybe it's like maybe can say example lah. My understanding is like okay, like this some issue happen, and instead of focusing on how this issue happened, then maybe they are focusing on, oh, you is the one that make this happen, or become like focus on the people that make this happen instead of focus on the problem. I don't know whether it's correct or not. This is what I can understand from this. Can I understand? I don't know. This is what I understand.
Let's discuss. The problematic behavior, like what? I mean, I don't understand this one.
I think, in my opinion, right, this is like, for example, that person, she has no discipline, or she always late, to the meeting or whatever. So instead of encourage and motivate her to come earlier, right? They always scold her that she always late for meeting. They always focus at the problems. I mean, her problems, problematic behavior, instead of encouraging her to come earlier. Yeah, this is what I got it from the sentence.
Yeah, I think Isa one clearer, better.
Thank you, thank you. I think Sir want to add something. He turned on his mic already. Hi, Sir.
Okay. I think first thing is to go back a little bit. This book assumes that there is a problem with leadership already. That means there is a problem with the being able to effectively influence. That's the first thing, and that's why he in the interview he see the problems that causes ineffective leadership or causes ineffective influence. So you go back to the 10 problems, we will be able to see that. And that's why when we read this book, her approach is slightly different from John C. Maxwell's approach. Which is why nowadays, which is fair enough, because why? Can you imagine leadership books has been out in the market for at least 20, 30 years already. People have been talking leadership, and yet, if you look out there in the world today, still a lot of ineffective leadership, correct? Leadership is a common household word, you know. When I was growing up as a teenager, I never hear word leadership much. We don't talk leadership. When I was in school, we never hear leadership. Right? Yeah, we hear management more than leadership. Because at that time, the world focuses on management and then started teaching management skill. So for you all, when you start growing in school, you already hear leadership, correct? So leadership is common to you all. So much has been taught about leadership. But yet, when we look out into the world, the real world, despite so much being taught, so many books talking and teaching leadership, but yet, if you really look at it, still got so much problem, still got so much ineffective leadership. Agree? So many problems. So many conflict. Right? So many failure to influence effectively. So why? What? So that's why this book question asks the question why? Why is still so much leadership, so much talk about leadership, so much teaching about leadership, and yet still so ineffective? So what is the cause of this ineffectiveness of leadership? That's why I came to these 10 problems. So due to the interview, from the survey, from the interview, this 10 problem, which is very good actually, to be able to identify, you see, the failure to influence has got to do with certain mindset and certain attitude. And these are, if you look at this, these are mindset and attitude. Right? The way people think and approach the problem. And he managed to bring this all to fear, you know. She managed to attach it to fear. Different kind of fear. Fear of doing this, fear of doing that. People trying to avoid, right? Yeah. So if you look at it, this is a good, at least a common, because these are the top 10, so to speak. The top 10 respond from the survey or from the interview. So it is worthwhile for us to recognize, because leadership is now so common. But the problem is not whether we are leading. We all know about leadership. Now the problem is how can we overcome the barriers that is hindering ourselves from becoming more effective in our leadership. So it is important in this case, in the 10 problems, to me, to personalize, identify from these 10, which ones are the one you see yourself having a problem with. You can identify as having a problem. That means it's your struggle as well. But this is important because this got to do with admission. I have to admit, and that's vulnerability. Admitting, because in today's world, somehow we have been taught that we need to be strong, we need to be good, we need to be capable, we need to be competent, we need to be. But now Brené Brown is saying otherwise. We need to be vulnerable. That's what Brené Brown is saying. That's why Brené Brown in the research talks about vulnerability. And that's why he says rumble with vulnerability. Rumble is what? Rumble got two meanings if you check dictionary. One is the lightning thunder, the thunder. Far away, the thunder keep boom, boom, boom. That's rumbling. Okay, never mind. But there's another meaning for rumble. Street fight. Street fight got no rules on. Okay. And that's what he's saying. We have to keep fighting. Struggle. Rumble. Continuously fight with this fear of vulnerability, with this internal struggle that within ourselves that, oh, no, I need to protect, I need to create a wall so that I don't become vulnerable. This is the struggle we need to break down that wall and be vulnerable. In other words, we need to break down the wall and admit. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Today, think about it. Today, if I were to ask you, who will probably influence you more? A person who is very, very strong, very capable, very that means that you see a strong macho man outside or a macho leader outside, very strong, very capable, very competent, but never share feeling, never share the soft side, never open herself or himself. Compared to another person, right, who's open, who share their own mistakes, right, who cries with you and willing to express their own hurt. Who would you be influenced more? Who would you listen more?
Actually, mix, I feel. It means that
Would you listen to the first person continuously?
no, but the leader also need to be strong. Then when times, if need to be honorable. So it's the mix more holistic, right, sir? Instead of either one. He also cannot keep cry or vulnerable in front of the followers.
Yeah. That's why the sustainable leadership doesn't work with number one anymore. Am I right to say that? Sustainable influence. I'm talking about sustainable influence. I'm no longer talking about short-term leadership. I'm talking about long-term leadership. Long-term leadership needs a leader, competent, capable leader who's also vulnerable. Can say that?
Yep.
And that's what this book is about, by the way. There are so many books talking about capable leadership. Brené Brown now turn around and say, talk about vulnerable leadership. And so you need to identify with this, because only for your own self, we are not only also talking about external leadership, we are talking about self-leadership as well. Think about it. You can't effectively lead yourself under self-leadership if you are not open to recognize and admit the fear and the struggle within yourself. And number two, okay, any questions there? I just overview first before I touch with the question that you were talking about in number two.
Sophie, okay, Sophie? Is it too deep?
Yes, okay.
Yeah. If you want the rest, okay or not?
Pardon? You were talking to me, is it?
No, I just want to check if you okay, can follow or not.
Can follow.
Okay. Then okay.
Faye, learn to think long term, don't think short term. Faye, if you want to really benefit from learning, stay long term. You have to get used to deeper discussion, so that you can stay long. You can learn long. You can learn. Over long period. Transformation is not short term.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, in number two, it is very important for. I think this one, for YMAT, it will be easier to understand. To recognize that the root of all behavior is mindset. Stephen Covey says that. At the root of your behavior is your mindset, and make sure your mindset is principle-centered paradigm, based on principle-centered paradigm. But yet, in reality, a lot of time, because we want quick result, we focus on behavior, because the behavior leads to result. So it is always much easier to tackle behavior, because once you tackle behavior, you change behavior, you immediately change result. But if you remember, Stephen Covey says what? If you keep working on behavior, right, without changing your habitual mindset, what will happen? You will bounce back. Your change of behavior is short-term one. So, but if you change mindset, the change mindset is the fear. Okay? That's why instead of acknowledging and addressing fear, instead of acknowledging and addressing a habitual mindset, instead we try to manage problematic behavior. We punish behavior. We don't try to deal with the internal mindset that motivates the behavior. But if we deal with internal mindset that motivates behavior, it becomes very tough. Then you need habit. If you remember 7 habits of highly effective people, you need habit 5. Empathic listening. Because you cannot quite, you need a lot of time to understand the other person's mindset that leads to that problematic behavior. And to understand the other person's mindset, you really need empathic listening. You need to empathize with the person's childhood that leads to the certain behavior. But if you really look at today's world, no, Because we need quick results. We want result today. Right? And mindset change doesn't happen today. You cannot create change in mindset in one day. Because the old habitual mindset takes years. That's why here he's saying that one of the problems to effective influence or effective leadership is when we focus on problem behavior, rather than focus on the root of the behavior, which is something wrong with the mindset. So out of fear of opening a can of worms, the problem mindset is a can of worms. It's very messy one, dealing with problem mindset. And that's what number 2 is about. Finding the time and taking the time in a society today that is so short of time, right? Because everybody wants to rush. Yet, to be effective as a leader, he is saying you need to take the time. And yet you have to overcome the fear of opening up the kind of problem, mindset problem, to deal with mindset problem. Can understand what I'm trying to explain? Question or comment? Yes, no, up, thumbs up, thumb down.
Sir, I think right nowadays the leaders they are trying to build us with their mindset instead of understanding our mindset first.
Correct.
Which is bad.
You see, okay, there's always two sides of a problem. Let's look at two sides of a problem. You say that people are, the leaders are always trying to brainwash you with their mindset, correct? Now, if we look at it from another angle, they are the one having the problem that they require you to comply with their mindset. Am I right? Why should you comply? Why do I need anybody to comply with my mindset? I don't need you to comply with my mindset. But when I need you to comply with my mindset, then I am having the problem, you know. Now, that is one side of the coin, correct, Lisa? Now, if I were to look at it from another side of your coin, why do you want to comply with other people's mindset? Why do you feel the pressure to comply with other people's mindset? Why can't you make a stand and decide not to comply with other people's mindset if the other people's mindset is not right?
If you're very strong, then can. If you're not, it's either you fight for it or you leave.
Is it because you have a fear of vulnerability? Or is it because you have the fear of admission of defeat?
Not really.
Or is it because you have the fear of rejection and not belong? Or is it because of the fear that you will risk losing something?
No.
Then why do you need to comply if it is not appropriate? If it is appropriate, why do you have to not comply? If it's not appropriate, why do you have to comply?
I think that's come from our own paradigm. I think from our in our inner personal belief, right? We believe that this is people's territory. So we should comply.
Good question, huh? Why should you?
That's
This
why
is-
I say very strong is because I currently encounter this. I did not comply and now I have trouble already. All the heads want to meet me, you know. Oh my god.
Now, let me challenge you. That's why this book is here. That's why just now, Steve, just now you have one slide that talks about courage and leadership risk. Can you go to the slide? I think this is very important. The slide that you have courage, then risk. Top is courage, bottom is risk. Ah, you cannot have courage when you don't have risk. Always remember that. And when you cannot accept the risk, then you cannot find courage. Agree?
Yeah, just now you asked a few questions, ma. Why should I afraid? Why should I fear? Is there any things I cannot lose the job? Things like that. So I think it's it's good to reflect lah. If I did anything wrong, if I'm in the right position, why should I fear? Even the head meeting, then just tell and say whatever is authentic and true for. Because they are trying to imply their mindset to us saying that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But in my perspective, I don't see any issue. I just being authentic.
What is the step? Then my question now is comes this. What is the step that you need to take? What is the first step to journey from your present position to effective leadership in the future?
Reflect on myself.
How can I get from my present position to a stronger, effective leadership? What is my first step?
Honorable.
Knowing the purpose. Can I?
I think knowing the purpose, you already know.
Truth.
I think for most people, they already know.
Know the
Of
truth.
course, there are some who don't know lah.
Mm.
Knowing the truth cannot. Why? You're always trying to know the truth.
Mm. Mm.
Now, from your present position. Okay, now your present position, do you have an idea of your purpose? Now, how can you move from now to improve your leadership?
You asking me, sir?
Asking everybody.
Oh, okay. Jin Lee said, know what I am lacking.
Very good. Saying more.
Saying more.
Not
Good
just
leader.
no. It's not just about no. It's only half right. It's no and admit. You have to admit to yourself there's something wrong with my thinking. I'm still lacking in something. I still fall short. I still cannot pass. I still fail. And that's what is rumble with vulnerability. And in this case, you're vulnerable with yourself because only when I say I admit I have a problem, then I will look at the solution for the problem. I won't look for the solution to the problem if I don't admit I have a problem. That's why courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the response to fear. It's a proactive response to fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. When there is no fear, there is no courage. How can you say a person is brave when he doesn't encounter any fear? You know what I'm saying? If you don't encounter any fear, can you say you are brave or you are courageous? You can only say that you have courage when you have fear and you are able to overcome that fear and step out. Then you can say courage. If I couldn't step out, then I've responded in fear. But if I step out, right, and not let the fear hold me down, I step out, then that's courage. In other words, another illustration is this. Can you break free if you're not tied down? Yeah. Can you have courage if you have no fear? Fear is the one that's tying you down. Courage is the breaking free. And fear that is tying you down is the risk of losing something. That's the risk. You're going to lose something. And that's why that's the fear. And so the courage, right, is to be able to acknowledge the fear, acknowledge the risk, admit the risk, admit your problem, and then you step out. And only in admitting your problem, you step out, then your courage grows. And you become stronger. That's why, according to Brené Brown, the step one, which is the foundation of dare to lead, in other words, dare to act in a way that will lead to effective influence, must be the first step of rumble with vulnerability. That means daring to admit the struggle and the problem that you are facing. And admission is vulnerability. Admission of the struggle and your problem that you have is vulnerability. And which is why it is also very important, the 10 problems that we look through, we are able to sort of look through and say, oh, these are the ones that, these are the ones I have the habit of practicing. Yeah, I tend to do this. I tend to do this. Now, of course, I don't think any of us will tend to do all 10, but I'm sure you will find a few there that we tend to fall for. Okay. Depending on the kind of personality or our background that we have. When I read through all 10, I sort of can say, hey, this one, yeah, I do this. And then I also can say, oh, that one, that person do this. Oh, that one, this person do this. I can sort of identify, the different people.
So you finish
喂，Sir 好像被赶出去了。我听到噔。
我只是问他 finish 没有，是被赶出去啊？他没有在哦。
他应该是进来回来进回来 OK Hi Sir, welcome back.
You disappear
除非你有什么 question 可以问，你知道吗？我们这边就是 after sharing 我们就会 open question， 然后就分享这样子的。
Actually, with some comment and sharing lah.
Mm.
Walao, actually, like what Sir just now say, the 10 problem that facing, like, I don't know, I just put like, when I read through this, I try to put organization view lah. When I put the organization view, right, I think this 10 problem also appear, it's like, yeah, it happened. It just not all the time lah. Yeah? Not all come in one side, like what maybe the first one come first, then second one come, and third one come like this. And I don't know, I just try to share like maybe what we can do is like put yourself in an organization. Either you are the boss or the employee, you put yourself in there. I heard just now Agnes asked and Isa also asked whether we should comply the idea of thinking from the boss sharing, like, sorry, I'm not saying the boss sharing, like. So from my point of view, I think the first thing that we need to think through is I mean, if you put yourself inside the working place, it's like what kind of work you are doing, no? It's like what is your job scope lah? I reduce it down to small size lah, thinking lah. It's like, okay, if your job scope is to solve this, solve that, so only from that, then you can know whether you should comply the thinking. If, okay, for example, you are here to sweep the floor, then suddenly your boss give you some thinking about swimming or maybe killing someone. So when this, you have to decide, your purpose here is to sweeping. If the mindset is about killing, then you should not follow lah. Instead of, because you are the boss, that I need to comply. No, this is what I think lah, from my point of view lah. So I don't know whether I correct or not. I try to put this inside my working place lah. It's like I recently also faced this kind of problem, whether I should face my employees or not, and I try to face. So it's like when I face them, I also need to I don't want like every time everything also come to me. It's like I try to let them know what is this organization is about, what are we actually facing and going to. I mean, it's like end in mind. I think set an end in mind for them. Then from this only we can start to like the 10 problem not come to place. It's like, when should I open to them and how should I open to them? It's like when should I confront them? When should I confront them? When should I praise them? When should I praise them? It's like based on the ending, then we decide what action we should bring lah. It's like that's how Angus also said. I mean, when Sir asked which kind of boss you guys like, the one that look tough or the one that always show one, I think, yeah, I mean, for me, my point of view only, not right or wrong one. It's like, yeah, I think sometimes, I don't know, should I use the word flexibility or not? Yeah, I mean, the word flexibility on right time using right method, I think is quite important for me to face this kind of problem. So I don't know, I actually, after read this, and then I try to apply, and yeah, I don't know whether right or not. If I got missed out anything or that you guys feel that can correct me, okay? That's it, my sharing. Hey, why silent already? Anyone got feedback?
Digesting. Still digesting.
Sir, why you laugh, sir? I doing right or not? You didn't leave me know of it, walao, sir.
Okay. This what I'm going to say also is rumbling with vulnerability, and it's very important. Remember, I think, except for Faye or Yvonne, I think the rest you have gone through. Maybe only Faye and Isa also may not. Remember the Maslow hierarchy of needs? Remember the book, How Will You Measure Your Life? You did, Agnes didn't do, looks like Agnes didn't do the how will you measure your life?
Sure, I got do.
Oh, you also didn't do, man?
I don't know.
How will you measure your life? Okay, never mind. Let me explain. You see, under the Maslow hierarchy of needs, there are 5 levels. The basic physiological need, shelter, love, esteem, and then self-actualization. I always split that whenever I go through. I remember I go through the book, How Will You Measure Your Life? I split that into two areas only. Survival and purpose. Now, we all need to, in leadership, are you leading as a survivor or are you leading towards a purpose? Are you driven, purpose-driven leadership or are you survival-driven leadership? Both also leadership, don't get me wrong, right? So, in life, the first rumbling with vulnerability is to recognize and acknowledge what level of leadership are you growing at the moment? Where are you? Are you at the survival leadership or are you at the purpose-driven leadership? Survival-driven leadership or purpose-driven leadership? So, like even for myself, right now, when I'm talking, when I'm conducting training, now under EIB, ICM, I'm conducting training on 7 habits, highly effective people. I'm talking about leadership and all that. And I begin to recognize that there are 2 different levels, in the audience. Some are learning the skill to apply in a survival-driven leadership situation. Right? But some, I notice, are in a purpose-driven leadership situation. Now, first thing in rumbling with vulnerability is for you to recognize where you are at and where you want to be. Then that's the first. Is there anything wrong with now you are in the position of survival-driven leadership? No. Survival is survival. You also need to survive. But for me, would I want to encourage you to remain in survival-driven leadership? No, I don't want. I want to encourage and motivate you to be able to move to purpose-driven leadership. Because at the end of the day, it's not the quantity of your life, it's the quality of your life that matters. Doesn't matter how long you live, but you live a meaningless life and suffering life. And I'm not talking about external suffering. I'm talking about internal suffering of the soul and the spirit. So if you want a fulfillment of the soul and spirit, you have to go for purpose-driven leadership. You must not remain in survival-driven leadership, which also means that you have to acknowledge that you are at where. And in a group study like this, vulnerability is very important to yourself as well, because otherwise you cannot admit and you cannot grow. And now, if I were to take it and put it in context of your work situation, this is where the conflict arises. If your boss is survival-driven leadership, but you are not happy to remain in survival-driven leadership, do you think conflict will arise? Then if conflict will arise, do you dare to confront? Will that issue or the fear of confronting now your boss, right? Because now you're encountering a different level of leadership, because of fear of losing favor with your boss, which may affect how nice your condition will be, at the expense of having a chance to influence your boss towards purpose-driven leadership. I also have the same problem one, you know. Why? Whenever I focus, even in my training, in my corporate training, in my work training, which is I need it for survival, how will I approach and market my program? Will I market and conduct my program in the context of survival-driven leadership? Or will I conduct my program in the context of purpose-driven leadership? What if my customers or clients have a survival-driven mindset? And I push for purpose-driven mindset. Will I run the risk of losing a customer? And that's the 10th problem. What are the 10 problems? So do I dare to open the can of worms and drive the conversation to encourage the people I'm talking to a higher calling in life, to be purpose-driven rather than survival-driven? Jin Lee, I think survival-driven is I need to everything just to earn money. Yeah. Basically finds the physical needs. Okay. William and Isa, I sorry, I don't have the picture for you. Look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Maslow hierarchy of needs. There are 5 levels. Physical needs, belonging, what are physical needs, belonging, relationship, esteem, self-actualization, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that lah. Okay. And you will find that, to me, I always say that the bottom is the survival. The top is purpose-driven. Yeah, that physiological need, safety need, love and belonging, esteem, and then self-actualization, self-fulfillment. You see,
Where is the line for survival and purpose?
to me, it's esteem and self-actualization.
These two is purpose.
Yes.
Then this two
Why
is
I say these
survival.
two purpose? Okay, let me rephrase it. Now, this is according to Maslow. Maslow doesn't talk in purpose context, but let me explain in purpose context. Esteem needs simply means what? I know who I am, what I'm about. I know who I am, and I know who I am and what I am. Then it will automatically fit into the top one, self-actualization. Now, because I know who I am and what my strengths are, I know what I can do to contribute to make my life meaningful. Because of my contribution, because I now know who I am and where I can exercise myself to make my life meaningful contribution to something bigger than myself. And if you look at the bottom 3, it's not about me. My physical need, my safety, my security. I am loved. My love needs. Then suddenly jumps to who am I? Self-actualization, what am I for? So what is driving your life? Do you know who you are? Why you are alive on earth? And what you are for? And are you moving in that direction to achieve what you are for? Your purpose. Whereas 1, 2, 3 is what? Survival. But without purpose. All I'm doing is stay alive and feel good. Right? So the question then will be, whatever you are doing in context of the leadership you are in. So to me, I see two levels. Now, in real life, there's nothing wrong with survival needs. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong. There are times when you are put in danger, right? Your survival instinct kick in. That's part of life. But to remain there 24/7 all the time, or most of your time, don't you think it's a waste of your life? So the question then will be, is there meaning? Is there value? Let me change the word. Is there value in living long, but living without meaning? In other words, if you stay on survival-driven leadership, and there are people out there living survival leadership. If you are living driven like that, just trying to stay alive, trying to find security, trying to have money in terms of need to be able to provide for everybody so that they can still stay alive, without considering, am I achieving meaning with my life? So what value is life without meaning? That becomes the important question mark. So if you chop off the Maslow hierarchy of need, you chop off the top two, what difference are you from an animal? Does that make sense? What difference are you from an animal? Even an animal also have 1, 2, 3, the top, bottom 3.
Okay, Bo, Isa, William.
Okay.
Okay.
Small.
You want more?
Leader or manager.
A lot manager one.
Leader or manager looks at the task that you focus on. But all managers are also leaders by default or by purpose. The question is whether you are an effective leader or not. And here we're not talking about just general leadership anymore. Brené Brown is talking about effective leadership, leadership that improves. That's why he talks about problems that leads to ineffective leadership. It's not a question of whether you're leading. If leadership is influence, it's neutral. But now he's talking about positive leadership, constructive leadership, or effective leadership. And that's why he's looking at, okay, why got so many leaders so long talking about leadership, and yet the world is not really improving? Why there's still so many problems? Everybody knows about leadership. So that's why this book, now he's trying to identify what are things we can do to overcome so that we can experience effective leadership, so that around us we can see improvement. Okay, right? So we have to remember that We are not going back to manager or leader, the kind of a basic explanation. We are already jumping into assuming that now there is leadership, but then there is ineffective leadership. Now we are talking about how to what are the causes of this ineffective leadership, and so what are some things we can do to overcome these problems that causes ineffective leadership. And that's what this book is about. And that's why he's saying that the first step, the foundational first step, rumble with vulnerability. Simply meaning you will continually fight, have this fight within yourself over admitting our own limitation, our own weakness, our own struggle, our own imperfection, our own, we are still not there yet, right? It is the admission that's what the vulnerability. Okay. I'll make sure you all have a clearer picture where we are going with this book. And at least your thoughts and yeah. So any other question? Any other comment? Maybe now also a good time to be vulnerable with each other. Overcome the fear of the risk of maintaining a good image of yourself with each other. Don't worry about that fear. Or at least try to find courage to overcome that fear.
So how to deal with a leader when they think they want to have a follower rather than a performer?
How do you deal? Okay.
Yeah.
The first issue, very important. You cannot change anybody. This is the first question. The first thing we have to accept in our own life. I cannot change you. Only you can change you. I can create an opportunity for you to listen and consider to accept what I say. And if you can, then you can, how to say, take that new thought and add it into your own mindset. And in that process, you are changing yourself. Basically, same thing here in this study group. I'm merely creating an environment where I can have a chance to talk. And in talking, the words have a chance to enter into your ears. But it's only enter into your ear and enter to the door of your mindset. You are responsible for opening the door, take the new thought into your mindset and plant it inside your mindset. That's why I didn't change you. I only speak so that it has a chance to place it in front of your door of your mindset. So that's the first thing, Isa. So I already described to you what can you do already, actually, by the way. So what I'm trying to tell you, you cannot change them. But you can place the thought in front of the door of their mindset. Of course, then you have to develop the skill. The skill of motivating or influencing them to increase the chance of them opening the door and take what you have to say and put it into their mindset. And that's skill and experience. However, if you do not find the courage to talk, sorry, the thought will never be placed in the door of their mindset. Because why? The moment you talk and speak and put the thought at the door of their mindset, they could very well open the door, take the thought, and shoot you back. And that's the risk. The thought can create a more negative impression that they can have of you, or they can improve their impression of you. Correct? Every time you speak your thought, especially deeper thought, you run the risk of creating a more negative impression or creating a more positive impression. And that's a fact, huh? If you don't talk, both also don't have. No risk, no benefit. If you talk, you have the risk and you have the benefit. And precisely because the risk is there, you need courage.
Need to talk effectively also very hard. Sometimes you dare to talk, then people say you are too direct, and then
sure.
you shouldn't say things like that. So need to tell in the way that they can accept, yet effective and
Then let me say another issue then. You think you hope and wait, you'll be able to talk effectively? What's the way to talk effectively?
practice and talk more.
Exactly, try and fail.
I feel I always kena one, so I tell you, my boss always say me, why you so straight, why you so direct? I'm like that, I'm effective. And I cannot. You need to have effective communication. Then I ask him, what is effective communication?
That's
Say
right.
something you cannot talk in the management. Something you ask me, you don't talk in front of people. Then I say, why cannot?
That's
cannot
his point of view.
Yeah.
That's based on his paradigm and his mindset.
Mm.
So there's no right and wrong. Right? Yeah. You are now rumbling with vulnerability. Do you realize that? You are now rumbling with vulnerability. You have to now rumble with the risk, whether you want to talk next time, as well as rumble with your own vulnerability of admission. Hey, I still got problem with talking, and I need to learn to talk. Right? So you're rumbling with vulnerability in two ways. Internally, within yourself, to have to admit, right? And open the sensitivity within yourself, and also rumble with the vulnerability of the risk of struggling with the fear. I think that's a fact. I think for that matter, I think in everything we do, we have to do that. Everything. Everything. And we continue have to rumble. Rumble.
Rumble 华语是什么 ？Rumble
Street fight.
This is not 华语。
应该是
Rumble
周旋啊。
周旋啊，我找到的 Rumble 很奇怪的那个 meaning 啊。
There's two meaning of rumble. One is the lightning, thunder.
哈，对对对，
Far away. But
包
there's a
冤
second
声
meaning.
哦，是咩？
Yeah. That's the thunder. Thunder far away is called rumbling. Rumble
Okay.
of the thunder.
Okay,
But
another
the
one.
other meaning is street fight.
Street fight is what? My English very bad.
Fighting in the street. Fighting it out in the gang fight. The gang people rumble. The gang people continuously fighting. Two gang fighting in the they're called rumbling.
Rumbling with vulnerability.
Chanto.
所以你是讲说我们要在里面战斗是吧？我们的心里面
没有，他就是想说的哈，我们内心里哈都一直会
战斗。
在讲啊
你要
挣扎
抗战
战斗这样子，知道吗？
Sorry， 听不到
你。要一直 fight against 啊。
我们的内心里面哈都一直会有那种挣扎跟战斗，知道吗？你想说你讲说是这个东西是对的，可是你又另一边想说你又好像也不对这样子，你懂我意思吗？
懂。
有时候好像你讲说你跟你的那个上司讲话的时候哦，有时候你又怕讲说你讲错话题，
然后不要讲又不行，对吗？
对，
太
那种感觉的意思。
And also rumble of the fear, rumble with your with wanting to build a wall and wanting to, you see, once you build a wall, you cannot connect. So you're rumbling with building a wall to protect yourself and rumbling with opening the door to connect. But when you open the door to connect, you run the risk of getting hurt. Or you build a wall to protect, then you lose the connection. So there's this constant rumbling of the two sides, which is why the rumble of fear and courage. Right? The rumble of fear and courage. It's a constant rumble. It's a constant fight.
Agnes, I don't know, just sharing from my side. I think what we can do is always find a fact or find the truth. For me, it's like whenever I know the truth, I don't scared to just speak it out. You get me? It's like, yeah, this is the truth, and why should I like care about what is you thinking? I mean, I'm talking about the truth, so it's like always look for the truth, I mean, the things they want to speak. Find the real truth or find the
true one. They want faces.
That is their problem. For me, it's like, no, I'm speaking out the truth. I'm not hiding anything.
So when I speak the truth, I kena. Why you
didn't
communicate?
You know why Jian Wei and Agnes, you two are different? You go deeper one step. It's because your value is different. You see, why for me lah? Okay, you look at me. You all know me many years. Right? I look very daring, right? It's because of my value system. I also rumble. You think I'm not afraid, man? I'm always afraid. I'm afraid fail. Right? And every time, you remember last time when I scold, even I scold Jian Wei, and then after that Jian Wei, you think I don't rumble, man? I also feel bad about it. And then when I scold,
you rumble,
yeah. When last time I kena CK, Jameson, they all I really feel bad one, you know. But part of the reason why I move on and easier for me is because of my value system. And if you remember, my value system is wisdom as number one. Wisdom means I want to know the truth. So how am I going to know the truth if I keep afraid? The only way to know the truth and to speak the truth or to understand the truth or is to rumble. But however, if I give an example, if somebody else's, another person, value system number one is relationship. Wow, jialat, oh! You see what I'm saying? Because why? Truth can jeopardize relationship. If the other person is not willing to accept the truth, right? Can destroy the relationship. So what happened? And if truth is below relationship, what do you think the person will do? Sacrifice truth for the relationship. So in this case, again, rumble with vulnerability is you have to recognize the value system that you hold. You have to come to terms with that. And you have to come to terms with the struggle that you will have if you hold whatever you hold as your value system, which is the same thing for me. Because I hold wisdom, I know I will lose approval. I know I will lose. That's why you even to this day, Elizabeth always say, I got, why, you know now why you have so little friends? How you make friends like that? You keep telling like that. But yet, I understand. But yet, when I look back inside, I cannot not do it. I cannot stop. Why I cannot stop? Because number one value is wisdom. My number one value is not relationship. So I sacrifice relationship. I sacrifice people's approval. I sacrifice what other people will think of me. Why? For wisdom and for truth and for knowledge and understanding. Hey, don't think that I don't hurt. I hurt. I also want approval, but it's just not number one. Right? So I end up having to rumble with vulnerability, and I have to say to myself, oh, okay. I cannot. I cannot. Why? Because I value wisdom, knowledge, and understanding beyond what other people think, what other people say, and relationship. Right? So after that, okay, I stop fighting. So like in this case, why Elizabeth struggled with me is her value system is relationship and approval from other people, number one. For me, my value system is wisdom, truth, knowledge, and understanding. So I would say, so the struggle goes in. And after I talk, okay, I have to admit, okay, your value system, of course, I didn't say it to her, because if I say it to her, I tell her the truth, I kena, and then my relationship with her even more thorough. So I don't say, and then I walk off, and then I shut up, and then I say, I just accept the situation as it is. And so I have to rumble through the vulnerability, the struggle, the uncomfort, discomfort during that moment to come to terms with myself and what I do right? And then with that, I know that I will have my own circle of influence. In other words, effective leadership, only certain circle of effective leadership will be there. And I know I cannot be effective in my influence towards everybody, but only some. Which is why, okay, let's look at YMAT, 50 over people. Some people I cannot influence. I have to accept that. Must have grace when you speak truth. Yeah. Oh, William and Isa, remember the previous book study on marriage. Yay! Speak the truth with grace. Yes. Can see, but the key is vulnerability now. It's in the vulnerability that you will expose to a more wholesome understanding. And then you can deal with, because in vulnerability, you have to admit your present situation, the rawness, the sensitivity part. You have to admit, you have to open and admit it. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you keep blocking it, you keep shielding it, you keep avoiding it, you cannot, you don't have the chance to how to say to find your position in it, You keep avoiding, you feel bosong. But in your admission, you are able to find your position. I think that's the word. Yeah.
Okay.
Reminder,
So.
11:04. For how many questions?
Oh, 11:15 already. Wow.
No. I think let everyone think tonight. Then
Yeah, think.
next week before start, I think give some time for any question. No, better lah. Let already also.
Yeah. No need to rush one. No need to rush.
No rushing. Yeah. So everyone just note down any question. Then next week.